Hey everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my pros and cons about veganism. Oh, there's no cons to veganism. Oh, if you're a vegan, you can't get your B12. So if you haven't checked out my full vegan story, I'll be sure to link that right here so you can go check that out first. And I think it's important for you to check that out first because I'm going to be talking about a lot of things from that video and not going as in depth about it here. But be sure to check that out because there might be some gaps that I have in this video. So I'm going to first talk about my personal pros and cons, and then I'm going to be talking about some that I found on the internet. I found this full article titled Pros and Cons of Veganism, and some of them are really hilarious. So I want to talk about them and maybe kind of dispel some myths, maybe. I'm not a professional. I've only been vegan for a year. I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor or anything, so some of the things might not be completely accurate, but I will just tell you my opinion on them and what I know from my own research. So let's go ahead and jump right into my pros. The first one is that I feel a lot healthier. And I don't mean like I don't get sick. Obviously, I have kind of a cold going on right now. What I mean is just my overall health, I guess. I feel like I get a lot more nutrients now. Instead of filling up my body with like chicken and eggs and yogurt and all the stuff that I was eating before, I am now filling up my body with plants, obviously. But I'm now filling my body up with nutrients. I eat a lot more leafy greens now. I just eat a lot more vegetables in general. I was not a big vegetable eater before. I eat a lot more fruits now. I just feel like now my body is definitely thanking me for what I eat instead of just feeling so meh all the time. Does that make sense? Number two is that I feel a lot more energetic and a lot less groggy. I still do have some mornings where it's kind of hard to get out of bed, but for the most part, once I get up, I feel completely energized. I don't feel like I need to go run and make a cup of coffee before I do anything throughout the day. And this also leads to my workout recovery time. So I've never really talked about this before, but I had a stress fracture in high school from running. And it was my first time ever like running more than a mile at a time. I did cross country my senior year and we were running like maybe 10 or so miles a week. It wasn't too much, but it was a lot for me going from 0 to 10 miles a week. And it really put a lot of stress on my body and it showed when I injured my foot. Granted, I was also working 40+ hours a week and I was also in marching band. So I was just doing a lot on my feet and it was really hard on my body. And during that time, I was obviously eating an animal-based diet. But now I am eating a plant-based diet and I did another running program in September through November. I was again running probably 10 or more miles a week. The injury did not come back like I thought it would. And after every workout, so many of the people in my group were tired, they were wheezing, and I was just sitting there like, I'm good to go, let's do another mile. I just felt like my workout recovery time was a lot quicker than those I was running against. And also I did not get sore very often and my bones and my joints didn't hurt either. And I think that has a lot to do with the lack of inflammation. Another health benefit I've experienced is if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen me ask a couple times for like home remedies and stuff like that for migraines. Ever since I was 8, I had a migraine almost every day. About 11 or 12 years of migraines. Yeah, and I had tried several different medications, I have tried several different home remedies and nothing helped. So around this time last year that came back really strong, like January through June-ish, I had a migraine every day. And it was around June where I finally had like cleared out my entire house of animal products. I'd been studying my Japanese, so I knew how to ask for stuff properly when going out to eat and stuff like that. But it was around that time that the migraine stopped, and I had been like hearing testimonies from other people about the health benefits that they received from eating a vegan diet. But for me, it finally clicked. Wow. My lack of migraines is because I'm no longer eating animal products and I'm no longer suffering the consequences of all that stuff like high blood pressure and inflammation and stuff that was probably leading to my migraines. Okay, that was a long one. On to number 3. I feel a lot less bloated and a lot more regular, if you know what I mean. Maybe after dinner, after eating food the entire day, I feel a little bit bloated, but for the most part, waking up in the morning, I feel great. Even then going throughout the day, I feel great. I just don't feel bloated much anymore. Number 4 is my environmental footprint has gone way down. I talked about this a lot in my last video. I'll link it right here, about all the different ways that you should go vegan that do not include for the animals. And my number 1 reason for why I'm vegan was for the environment. So I'm just really happy that my environmental footprint has gone down and I just don't feel as guilty anymore. Number 5 is that we save money at the grocery store, and this might be surprising to most of you. I feel like there's a lot of rumors being vegan is expensive, and that is just not the case. Like I mentioned in my vegan story video, it can be expensive if you're trying to buy all the vegan burgers and cheeses and stuff like that. That can really add up. But if you're just sticking to a whole food plant-based diet, we save probably $30 to $40 a week at the grocery. Number 6 is that I've learned a lot more about cooking and baking. I've learned different methods of cooking. I've learned different types of cuisines. Like I've tried a lot more Asian food. I've learned about different seasonings and different herbs and stuff that's good for you, and like different flavor combinations that work well. And in baking, I've learned different replacements and other things you can add. Overall, it's just been a lot of fun to experiment with cooking and baking, and I've learned a lot. Number 7 is that I like a lot of new foods now. And I think that's mostly because on our old diet, we were just eating a lot of like rice and chicken and vegetables and eggs. Like we were not having that big of a variety of stuff, but now we try different vegetables, we try different cuisines, like I said. And it's just also really interesting to see how our taste buds have evolved. Instead of craving like buffalo chicken dip or something that I might have craved like a year and a half ago, I literally crave salads and broccoli and chickpeas and stuff like that. And it's just really interesting to see what my brain and my body crave now. Number 8, I think this is number 8, is that I've made a lot of new friends. I haven't lost any friends due to veganism. Some people might experience that, but for me, I've just grown my group of friends. The group of people I interact with online is different, and I met a lot of people here on island. I actually did a cookie swap a few weeks ago with some local ladies on island. We all baked our favorite vegan cookies and we swapped, and it was really nice to get to know each other. And number 9 is I'm a lot more educated. And what I mean by this is I'm just more aware of my environmental footprint. I'm more aware of what I'm contributing to with my money, and I'm more aware of the foods I eat and the impact they have on my body. Even if you're not gonna go vegan, you should definitely eat more fruits and vegetables just because it's so much better for your body. Okay, on to my cons. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, there's no cons to veganism. I guess there's really not. Those were all really good pros. I guess the pros are more focused on me and like my health and well-being and stuff, and the cons are more focused on the social aspect. So the first con I have is that it can be hard to explain and kind of awkward to be thrown into that situation where, I don't know, you're just kind of out with friends and someone brings up the fact that you're vegan, and then all the eyes go to you and it gets quiet, and then you have to explain. And it can also be hard to explain because some people don't understand what it is. It's not a great first one. Second is that eating out is difficult. And I feel like most places in the US or in Europe have gotten a lot better about having vegan options, and there's a lot more vegan restaurants available in a lot of locations now. But for me here, and then even all 3 places that I've lived in my life, I've lived in rural Ohio, I've lived in Texas, like land of barbecue, West Texas, okay? I know some cities in East Texas have evolved, but West Texas, probably no one out there knows what veganism is. And then I've lived here. A lot of people understand what it is, they just don't have a name for it. A lot of people here in Okinawa don't eat a lot of meat anyways, but being like an American vegan is kind of tricky over here. You can learn more about that in my vegan story video. I talk a lot about the issues I have living here, but for the most part, it can be tricky eating out, especially with a group of friends who are not vegan. It gets hard to find a place that can accommodate both people and also be delicious. Number 3 is that vegan like luxury items can get kind of expensive. I say luxury items just because they cost a lot of money, but they're not actual luxury items if you're looking at it from like an animal product point of view. Things like sour cream and cream cheese and yogurt, different milks and cheeses, that kind of stuff can get expensive depending on your location. I know some places that probably have them for a decent price. I'm sure they still cost more than the regular animal product do, but for me especially, it's really hard to find them, and it's also expensive if you do want to buy them. Yeah, let me know if you guys also experience that where you live. Number 4 is not having options at potlucks and get-togethers. I've experienced this several times. Holiday gatherings with my workplace, most of the time like pizza or burgers and brats, and I'm like, I'll eat the potato chips. No, I usually bring my own food just because I know. But the good news is a lot of people that I work closely with have learned to accommodate me. Like when they bring a side or something for the event, they'll bring something that's vegan so that I can eat it as well, and I think that's really nice of them. But in general, most of these are not catered to vegan, so it's really hard to go and eat at group events. Number 5, I talked about this a lot in my vegan story video, and that is traveling and the language barrier. This might be the case for other people who live in another country. I have definitely learned and picked up a bit of the language here, but I'm certainly not perfect, so it is hard still to travel here. But when traveling abroad, it's very difficult to explain to people what veganism is, read labels, obviously I can't read another language, and stuff like that. It can be pretty tricky. And the last one is just people in general can be rude. That's more of a con to life than it is a con to veganism, and it's very, very rare, but I have come across people who are rude and judgmental about me being vegan. Some of the people I even work with. I typically don't care. I know they're just making fun of me. That's terrible. I just don't really care when people make fun of me. I know in my head and my heart what I'm doing is right. They can make fun of me all they want. I don't really care, but I know some people find it really difficult to cope with that. And just know that it's not a lot of people who do this. It's very, very few people. Most people are very open and considerate about it, but it does happen. Some people will make fun of you along the way. You just have to be the bigger person. So now that I'm done with my own pros and cons, let's move on to the ones that the website talked about. And I'm taking everything they say with a grain of salt because this website is literally procon.org. It's obviously not a scientific based journal or anything like that. that. This is all people's opinions, and I'm gonna give my opinion about it. And I'm gonna try to keep it brief because I know this video is probably getting long. Okay, so just a technicality, this website does not do veganism, rather vegetarianism. So there's actually a lot. I'm just gonna highlight some of the ones that I think are the silliest, because obviously some of them do make a lot of sense. But one of the cons they said is that eating meat has been an essential part of human evolution for 2.3 million years. While that may be true because we were hunter and gatherers at one point before we became like farmers and stuff, it is interesting to see like when archaeologists find human remains, they find like other little bones and stuff. Oh wow, they ate meat. They were meat only people. No, because berries will decompose, corn and potatoes and all that other stuff is gonna decompose and not leave anything to fossilize. So I think that one's kind of funny. Just because we didn't see it in fossils doesn't mean they didn't eat plants. This one's really funny. Meat is the most convenient protein source available. Convenient? Do you know how convenient it is to go to the store and get a meat and then bring it to your house and properly prepare it, because it takes a lot and you gotta sanitize everything afterwards because you can't touch raw meat most of the time or whatever. You gotta cook it to a certain temperature just to consume it, when you can just buy a can of peanuts and eat that right after you purchase it. That's convenient. Or a can of beans. You don't even have to heat up beans. You can dump beans on a salad. I would think meat is the least convenient because you have to cook it. Like all of the plant proteins, you don't have to cook them. Eating meat provides healthy saturated fat. I don't believe that personally. I've heard a lot of bad things about saturated fats. And just to be sure, I googled it, and here's what a saturated fat compared to unsaturated is. Overall, saturated fat has a less healthful effect on the body compared to unsaturated fat, meaning unsaturated fat may be a wiser dietary choice. So why would I want to consume saturated fats? Obviously they don't sound good for you. Okay, be right back. Okay, if you've never heard of nutritional yeast, this is basically like vegan Parmesan and it's like a superfood. It's basically a superfood. Here's what one of the cons is. Meat is the best source of vitamin B12, a vitamin necessary, whatever. We obviously know it's necessary if you're a vegan. You know that because everyone warns you that you can't get your B12s anywhere besides meat, and that meat is the best source to get it. False. This journal says a 3-ounce serving of beef contains 2.56 micrograms of vitamin B12 and adults need 2.4. So that would get you your daily serving of B12. Just a quarter cup of nutritional yeast gets you 17.6 micrograms. You could eat like a teaspoon of this and you'd be good for the day. That seems to me like the best source of vitamin B12, just saying. So that's another one of those myths that, oh, if you're a vegan, you can't get your B12. Well, it's right here and it's in a lot of other stuff as well. That was another interesting thing I got from Game Changers, is that animals have all this stuff in their meat that we eat, but where do they get it? They're all herbivores, so obviously they get all of their nutrients from plants, so we can get all of our nutrients from plants as well. Raising beef is often the most efficient way to produce food for humans. If you missed out on my last video of all the reasons that you should go vegan, I talk a lot about the environmental impact of eating animals. Just a few numbers, it's around 1,800 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef, and that's because all of the crops that they eat, it takes a lot to feed a cow. Cows weigh a lot. Instead of using all of that land and water to grow food for animals, we could be growing that for humans instead. This one's my favorite. Vegetarian diets are not necessarily better for the environment because 92% of US soybeans are planted with genetically modified soy, and they claim vegetarian staple protein is soy. Sure, it might be, but you wanna know who eats more soybeans than humans? Cows, and all the other livestock, of course. They turn the soybeans into food for the animals. So if we weren't having to plant as many soybeans to feed those animals, we could be doing more crop cycling to prevent that topsoil loss. If you didn't know I'm from a farming community, I know a little bit about farming, so that one is hilarious that they claim that the topsoil loss from soybeans is the fault of the vegetarians and not the 70 billion animals that we're trying to feed every year. I don't believe this at all. Vegetarians do not live longer. I've been reading a lot of studies recently and it's proven that they do, vegans and vegetarians, because animal products produce a lot of health risks like different types of cancer and high blood pressure and risk of heart attack, all that other stuff. You can read a lot more for yourself about that. That's just my 2 cents. It's also just funny that they're like, a few of these are just the same con, just worded differently to kind of get more. It seems like they're trying to make more cons than they are pros. I don't know, it's just interesting to me. I don't touch much on animal cruelty. That's not really my thing, I feel like, as a vegan, but I'm gonna talk about this one. There's nothing inherently cruel about raising animals for food. I actually agree with that. I think that back when we first, as a human civilization, started farming, the way they did it was pretty natural and, I don't know, not completely unethical. What's unethical about a lot of it now is that it's factory farming. All of these animals are like multiple animals per pen. They're overcrowded. They're dying of diseases. Those diseases are getting passed to us. They're living in their own poop. It's not the killing fact of animals, but it's just the overall process of what goes into factory farming now that has just really become unethical. Everyone has their own opinion about factory farm, and that is mine. This is actually kind of funny. They're kind of throwing shade at vegetarians too. Like, oh, just because you're vegetarian doesn't mean you prevent the death of animals. This is one con that I do agree with, and we're gonna end on this one. It is not necessary to become vegetarian to lower our environmental footprint. While I do agree that becoming vegan and not just vegetarian does really have a huge impact on your environmental footprint, a lot of it is other lifestyle choices. If you still have the lights on in your house all the time, if you still drive big truck, if you still fly halfway across the world every month, you know, ridiculous stuff like that, that doesn't really lower your environmental footprint. You do have to do a lot all around to lower your environmental footprint. That's a whole nother topic. I hope you enjoyed my personal pros and cons. Let me know what your personal pros and cons are down below if you have anything similar or different. And I also hope you enjoyed me ranting about cons about veganism and vegetarianism on the web. That was a lot of fun. Okay, that's it for this video. If you have not seen my other videos in my Veganuary series this year, I will leave them linked down below so you can check those out as well. Stay tuned for next week's Veganuary video. It might be the last one. Is this the last week of Veganuary already? Next week's video is going to be about tips for new vegans, brought to you by a new vegan. So just a little like foreshadowing for that. I think it's really important for new vegans to teach new vegans, because when you have someone who's been vegan for 10 years trying to teach a new vegan how to like take baby steps at the beginning, it's really hard because they did that a decade ago. I feel like it's a lot more relatable for me and other new vegans to explain what to do as a new vegan. So that's why I'm making this video, and I'm really excited for all the things I have for that. So if you don't want to miss that, be sure to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell for post notifications. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and again, thanks for watching. And remember, until next time, that the small changes you make have a big impact in the long run. Bye guys. Pros. Or should we start with cons? We'll do pros. 11 years of migraines. 19. 11. This is gonna be so long. I don't feel as guilty about living. 12 minutes later. Holy cannoli. This might be this. I'm getting salty. I love ranting and getting salty and spilling tea. What? New tips for new vegans. New tips? That was all over the place.